All right, ladies and gentlemen, for this presentation, we're going to talk about what it is that is so important about mitosis and meiosis. Mitosis and meiosis matter so much to eukaryotic cells because the process of cell division itself is important, but it is focused on what's inside the nucleus. And your nucleus is filled with DNA, okay? So everything about mitosis and what we're going to discuss later on, meiosis, so both types of cell division, is really focused on your DNA. Now, a couple of things about your DNA. The majority of the time, your DNA is in this form known as chromatin. I like to describe it as a ball of string that's sort of been unraveled and then thrown in a pile. And you could see that in the diagram right here, that's kind of what the chromatin inside your DNA, your nucleus, looks like. And that's important because it has to be open because that's how it's accessible. Now this diagram right here shows you what happens as your DNA starts to, the word we like to use is condense. Because this is the thing, I can't divide an unraveled ball of string evenly with any order. It's just going to be chaotic, it's going to be messy, I'm going to make mistakes. And so instead of leaving it that way, what your body does is it condenses it, and all living things that reproduce through mitosis do this. They condense their DNA into chromosomes, and these chromosomes allow you to orderly separate them, all right? And so this structure right here is what's known as a chromosome. And this chromosome is actually condensed, and you can see that right here, DNA. Now, your chromosomes only show up during mitosis. You actually don't see chromosomes during any other time of a cell's life. The majority of a time, cell looks like chromatin, and that's because it's then that your DNA is accessible. When your DNA is in chromosome form, it's not accessible. But when it's in chromosome form, it is exceptionally ordered, and consequently that means it's easy to organize. You'll notice that chromosomes have several parts. You can see here there's the arm, and then in the middle there's this structure known as a centromere. Centromere is actually the piece that's holding it together. What I would like to point out is that this structure right here is actually what we call two sister chromatids. And most of the chromosomes that you see, the X shape, are two sister chromatids together. And this is actually two identical, and that word is going to be really important as we move forward. It's two identical copies of the chromosome. Okay? Now, let's get into that. Chromosomes actually look like this, all right? So this is a chromosome. Apparently I can't write. This is a chromosome. This is also a chromatid. I wish that I could simplify this language for you, but I can't. This structure right here is both a chromosome and a chromatid. Now you notice that there's two versions here. One's purple, one's green. Now over here, these are also chromosomes. And you can see that they are sister chromatids. These individual line copies right here are one copy of DNA from an organism. This right here is two identical copies. And that's going to be very important to understand why mitosis actually puts a full set of DNA in each new cell. Because what happens during anaphase is that this structure gets ripped in half at the centromere, and one of these goes to one cell, and one of these goes to the other. And since that is two identical copies, each cell is getting one full copy. Okay? Now, you'll see this word right here. It says homologous, and that's because organisms that sexually reproduce actually have chromosomes in pairs. So for instance, you may remember in your head if I said, hey, how many chromosomes do human beings have? You either thought 23 or 46. That's because human beings have 46 chromosomes, but they have them in 23 pairs. And the pairs, we use this term homologous because it means similar. Okay? And that's really important as we get into the variations of cell division. So let's take a look at what that means. Homologous chromosomes always have the same size and the same shape. You'll actually see eventually that we'll get into that there's actually some variation within different chromosomes and the sizes, all right? So they have the same size and the same shape. Now this is important. They actually carry genes for the same traits, but they can have different versions. For instance, let's say this chromosome right here carries the genes for eye color. Okay? This one right here, let's say this is the gene for green eye color. And this is the gene for blue eye color. Guess what? Both of these homologous chromosomes have the information for eye color. But one of them has information for green eye color and one of them has information for blue eye color. That's why they are homologous and not identical. And that's really important. And it's a challenging little subtlety, but it is a very important concept to understand. Okay? And we'll get into how they interact in later units. The last thing I want to talk about with chromosomes is that during the process of meiosis and only meiosis, very important, chromosomes actually have the ability to swap sections with their homologous partner. So you see here, homologous chromosomes aligned. This does not happen to chromosomes that are not homologous, or if it does, it's a disaster. Okay? So what happens is, you can see right here, they kind of get wrapped up like a leg with similar structures get swapped, and pieces of one end up on pieces of others. This is called recombination. Okay? And recombination helps with variety. And variety is very important because variety allows us to consistently evolve, which is very important for survival in the environment. All right, and we'll get into a little bit more about crossing over and why it's important. I just want you to understand crossing over happens only in meiosis. And you can see here what it basically is this chromosome right here, we typically color them this way. The blue one we say is your paternal chromosome, so that it's the chromosome you received from your father. And this chromosome is the maternal chromosome, which is the chromosome you received from your mother. And so basically what's happening here is a piece of your mother's chromosome is now part of what was originally your father's, and a piece of your father's chromosome is now originally part of what was your mother's. Now this is inside of you, so these are always your chromosomes, but what's important is that traits that were only your mother's, that you only got from your mother, now can be given away with traits from your father, and that becomes very important for increasing variety. All right, so this presentation is basically about some unique and interesting things about chromosomes and DNA that are very important for meiosis and mitosis.